Let's take a look at converting AutoCAD Architecture BIM files into regular AutoCAD DWG files. So on the screen in front of me here, I have a floor plan layout with the foundation inserted as an XREF, a construct brought in. And I'm going to go ahead and unload that construct. I'll go ahead and just do an unload. You can see there are other XREFs in there. Now, if I go into 3D, it's pretty clear that this is a 3D model. It's an AutoCAD architecture model. And that doesn't read well in regular AutoCAD, so we need to know how to convert that into something that a regular AutoCAD user or an AutoCAD LT user or perhaps even a Revit user would prefer, just the line work. So I'll go to top view. So before I get started on one of the, I think I'm going to show three options here. The first thing I would do is I would go down and I would make sure I have the display configuration set up to the one that I want to convert. So for example, I might want to do low instead of using medium, but I'll use medium here. And I may want to freeze things out that I don't want to convert, or I may delete them. When I do this kind of work, I never save the file itself because I typically will do things to the construct file that I don't want back in my project. These are things that I do to make the conversion more successful or improve it. So for example here, I might just, let's see, I'm just going to delete these things here. I don't want this. I'll leave those I should have done that. I'll leave the room labels, I just don't want the spaces. And I don't have all the room labels in this example. Oh, the room labels are attached. Well, we'll just go ahead and pull all that. I don't want the spaces in there because that's going to confuse the issue. All right, so I have the file up. Now, you may be familiar with some of these options. Option number one is that you can just go ahead and convert whatever you're looking at into line work. There is a command in AutoCAD Architecture called create, HLR for hidden line removal. It works on all kinds of AEC objects, and you can even do it in a perspective view and capture that perspective view of your model into a line work. It's actually a fantastic tool. I use this a lot when I want to capture an area and turn it into some sort of a detail without running through all of the process of using callouts and stuff. So I've typed it in, and I'm going to select everything, and it's just going to ask me now where to insert it. So I'll just pick anywhere off the side of my screen, and it says insert in plan view, yes. All right, so what comes up is maybe not apparent until you go into 3D. So what happens here is that it basically just flattened everything out and turned it into a block. And when we explode the block, go back to plan, you may not like the results. You can see it becomes an anonymous block, and I go ahead and I explode it, and then I go in and I maybe pick on an object like this. So this all becomes tiny little pieces of line work. But it is successful at doing what it's designed to do, which is just create a flattened version. Now, you could take that block, I'm going to undo here. You could take that and stick it in a separate file, just a regular AutoCAD file, and you could send that to somebody and let it be their nightmare if they need to work on it. Obviously, working on it would not be fun because it's all little segments, but it's pretty quick and it's pretty efficient in making it all flat. That's one of the cool things, is everything is entirely flat. So I'm going to delete that. Now another option that you have is you could do the AEC OBJ explode. And that's an old, oops, I mistyped that. AEC OBJ explode. This is an older command that we are going to see in another form in my next example. So, but here we'll look at it, and what this says is explode your AEC objects to primitive graphics, the current view, anonymous blocks, that's fine. We'll just leave everything in here, erase any AEC objects, and then, I don't know, shorten the names thing is kind of a legacy thing, but and display a status. So that's fine. We'll go ahead and do that. And when you hit OK, it doesn't ask you to place it somewhere. It's not going anywhere else. It's literally converting this file. So if you do this, definitely don't save this back to your original set of drawings, because it's just basically ruined it. If we look at this in 3D, you'll see it's almost entirely flat. It's not quite as good as the Create HLR, but it is producing something a little bit better. So I'll go to Plan World. Now if I go down and I select a window, for example, it sees that as a block of its own with an anonymous name. All of the blocks become anonymous blocks. But at least it's something you can work with a little bit better. If you go through and pick on different things, you'll see everything is kind of a block here. All right, even the wall is a block. Now, the thing that occurs when you use this command and the next thing I'm going to show, so if I go back to that command, you'll see there's an option in here for maintain resolved layer color line type. It's that option that we're going to see again that actually impacts the final product of running this conversion in ways that you need to explore and decide on your own. And which weird is, well, I'll bring this up again. Just be aware of that one. That's the option that impacts things like this. For example, that turned into a nice clean block of a window, but you'll notice it has some color issues. And the main thing here is when you explode it, what does it do? So in this case, it exploded and became nothing different. It looks exactly the same. The line work is kept. Now, when I'm picking on things, I'll go over here and I'll take a look at what happens to the properties of that object. That's a line. But you'll notice what happened here is it took on color 8 and it went to, or stayed on layer A glazing. It was originally not on glazing. It was on a sill layer. This one here is well, that's a separate block. Let's pick on this and see. That's the glass itself, or the sash. It's also on the A glazing layer, but it has a different color. So if you wanted to work with it, you would encounter some color assignments on that. So it's basically assigning all the objects by color instead of by layer. So you might want to, let's see, pick this and then go over and set it to by layer to get it more like a traditional AutoCAD file. And then you'll see this kind of a thing happens because this got transferred over to the primary layer of the object, which was A glazing. So it lost some layer nuances, which isn't the greatest thing, but it's a workable file for the end user. The other thing is that you might notice some things are at a different height than they should be. That has to do with the insertion height of the object when it was created. For example, if you did a floor slab and it was like a mezzanine level, so you put it up at say 8 feet, you would see the line work of that floor slab up at 8 feet. You can see on these garage doors, they're sitting lower when I go down, and that is because the floor slab of the garage was, in this particular example, I think was maybe 8 inches or so lower. So it thinks that that's the 0 plane because the object is residing at that plane. So likewise, the hood is sitting up high because that's where it was placed in terms of Z. And so you might have to do it, or the end user receiving this stuff might have to do some cleanup work if they want everything flat. So I'm going to go back to World. So those are two of the sort of command-driven ways of doing it: the Create HLR and the AEC OBJ explode command. They're not really your best tools if you have to give other people your file or multiple files, but I wanted to showcase that there are these other tools. You may need them in a different scenario. I'm going to go ahead and dump this file. I don't want to keep it. And I'm just going to jump to this file here, which is a much more complicated setup. This is the same file, but it's been brought into the sheet that was set up for printing and for, say, construction documents or presentation, permitting, whatever. This might be the kind of thing that you have to hand off to somebody else. So it gets complicated because there are more XREFs involved. There's a whole sheet set up, but you can do it. So we might as well start at the more complicated one and then work our way back to the just doing the floor plan. Okay, so the real command, what I should point out before I talk about the real command is there seems to be some misinformation online. If you Google or ask some AI bot about how to do this conversion stuff, I think there's a misunderstanding between doing a down version when you're saving a file down versus actually converting the file. These files need to be converted. They're not necessarily saved down. So if you go in here and let's say you go to Save As, and you knock it down to a release earlier, let's say you go down to 2010 or something, that is not going to convert the file. It is downverting, it is saving it down to an older release, but it's not converting it to just pure DWG stuff. Likewise, e-transmit will not do it either. And it seems to be that some people think that you can run it. There's no option in here. You can look at all the options. There's nothing in here about converting the AEC objects. This is all about maybe saving it down or collecting all of the parts to it. That e-transmit is great for that, but it's not about converting an AutoCAD architecture model into just pure drawing. So likewise, what is it? DWG convert. That won't do it either. It's the same thing as basically as e-transmit. So just make sure you understand what you're really needing to do. So the tool that you can use is this one here. You go over and you look for the export. You're actually exporting it. And if you read this little paragraph underneath this AutoCAD export option, it actually says that it's going to take the AEC objects and explode them. So when you come over here and pick a release year, you're not only converting it, you're also downverting it to an earlier release if you need to do that. So say you got some kind of an AutoCAD LT user from 2004, you can achieve both things. You can bring it down to pure line work and you can give it to an older release. So I'll just pick the option up here at the top. Okay, and then all it does is it wants to know where to put it. So I'll go to C, I've got a little, in my temp folder, I've got a little transmittals folder here. And you'll notice that when I do this, it puts ACAD dash in front of it, and then it uses the file name. We'll take a look at where that comes from. It's a good idea to have something there. If you don't want to, you could take it out, but this would just make sure that you track that this is a converted file. And I'll go ahead and I'll do a save. And it should take a few seconds to a minute or so to do all of that conversion work. If it goes really, really fast, like it's just a split second or even a partial of a second, that usually indicates that it won't convert it. And there's a number of reasons for why it won't do it. I have found if you take all of your XREFs and you go ahead and you bind them, sometimes that creates a problem where it just refuses to do it. The binding has actually occurred in this process, and I'm going to show you where that binding comes from. But I want to open the file and show you the product of that work. Let's see, nope, that's the video. This is here's the file here. So I'll go ahead and bring that in. So this is the sheet file A2.0. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. All right. And from the tab view here, the sheet view, it looks really close to the original. I instantly can spot some things that are different. For one thing, the driveway got shifted from the actual driveway over here, and this is the driveway curb got knocked out of place, and also the masking of some things is looking a little odd to me. But it's a viable file. It is something you can hand off to an AutoCAD user and they could probably get going with it. But let's go to the model. And notice all the XREFs have been bound. There are no XREFs in this file. So we'll go to model and then we'll start to see some oddities here. So all of the white stuff is AEC polygon styles. In our products, those are turned into masks. when you do a conversion, the masks become hatch patterns. So you will probably want to learn how to turn those masking things off so it doesn't produce this as end result for your recipients of your converted files. If we look at this in, we'll just go into 3D, it's pretty much flat. So not too bad. You might want to do a little bit of editing, or the end user can do a little bit of editing. You can warn them there might be some objects to just get rid of, or set down to z equals 0, but not too bad. And everything has been bound. So what that means is that the XREFs are gone and they got turned into blocks. So if I pick on a tree and I just do a right click and I isolate that, oops, I went the wrong way. If I go ahead and do, there we go, you'll see all the stuff that is connected to that file. That surprised me a little bit. There's a little bit more connected. It's, let's see, undo. Yeah, it made everything a block except for the text. That's right. So you'll see here the dimensions were unique to that file. Here's the file. So in this file, these things are, get inside. These are unique to that file. All these other things are XREFs. Those are unique to the file, but everything else are separate XREFs. It turned all of that, it's the first level. We're going to go through some exploding. It turned everything that was an XREF into one block. So if I pick here, that's all one block. If I do one explode on that, now I'll see the next level. So now I can do what I was trying to do before, which is, let's see, we'll do isolate objects there. So this is the site plan. And here's the driveway that blew out of this area over here. All right. So now it is still a block. That one XREF became a block. I can explode that again, and now the tree is a block. And when I select it, because I've got my cycling turned on, I can see that there are actually two blocks there. And that is because our multi-view blocks have the masking block and then just the outline block. So if I pick here, I might be able to get the the second one down is the masking block. So if I explode that, pick and go down and get that, I should be able to. But notice this tree somehow got slightly different in terms of behavior than this tree. So there, you can see that you end up having to do some cleanup work. These are not 100% perfect products by far. This I would have to get rid of, and so on. I'm just giving you the idea of showing you how the conversion occurs. The amount of editing work you're willing to do is up to you. And I will show you that I prefer not to do it this way, but I want you to see how a whole sheet can come together. So again, I can go in here, I can pick this, and I can explode that, and do whatever I need to do. I'm going to jump out of this file. I'm going to dump it, and I'm going to show you what I typically will do. So I don't like taking a full sheet file. I usually don't want to give anybody my title blocks anyway. I do have my dimensions. It's tough if I want to pass those on, but I would actually prefer to pull up the floor plan and then maybe cut and paste the dimensions into it so I can give a cleaner version. And you can see why, because of all of those blocks and all of that stuff I have to explode through to do cleanup work. I found that this is a better approach. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go down and find the floor plan, and I'm going to open that up. Right, and so now I just have my floor plan construct with my foundation. I'm going to do an unload on that. Okay, so now it would work better if you just convert this and give that to somebody, and then convert all your other constructs and give that, and they can reassemble it as they need. I know it's probably tedious, but it all depends on your relationship with the recipient party and also your time frame, of course. Now, what controls the product when you do this right here, when you do a export, when you do this process here, what controls what's going on in here, and this little AutoCAD is here. If you type in OP for options and you go to your AEC editor tab, you'll see a little area that provides you with options regarding the conversion, right? This is not just a save as thing, this is a conversion. So first option here is you can bind your XREFs. We saw what happened there. It makes sense to bind your XREFs in cases where you want to, you know, just make it all one drawing file of stuff. You would, if you're trying to reproduce how those XREFs are all working together, but you want them all to be line drawings, you would have to convert each of the constructs and then convert your sheet files without binding so that you can reproduce that. It's a tedious process. I don't think it's worth it. It'd be faster to just convert your constructs and recreate the sheets, I guess. Anyway, binding is pretty much the way to go. And then if you know about binding XREFs, there's bind, and then there's bind, insert. When you bind, insert, which is what this is saying, it turns the XREFs basically into blocks that are, they maintain their, or they have the layer properties stay clean. They don't get the, when you do the bind, you wind up with the layer properties having the name of the file that they come from as a prefix. It's a horrible mess. You can try it with just bind, just uncheck that. I never ever want to, well, there have been times where it has been a necessary way to sort of separate things, but typically you'll just want to do this as a clean file. Now here you see the AutoCAD. So that's just the prefix, and you can make your own up if you want your own up. And then finally, there is this maintain resolve layer color line type option. Now you notice that was available under the AEC OBJ explode command. However, they seem to work inversely. It's kind of weird. Checking this or unchecking it has an impact on the output of your conversion, and primarily what they say here in terms of exploding your objects. So I've already made 2 files to save time, and I'll show you the difference between the two, and you can decide which one you think is better, either having this on or off. So I'm just going to go ahead and do I'll do an apply here, and OK. So now if I wanted to port this file out and convert it, I would just run up here now and do a export, and I would run in here, and I would do this, and then I would just tell it the location C, and I would do temp and transmittals, and then I have it already done here. Let's see, this one is one with no maintain on, this one is with the maintain. So I would just run that. I'm not going to run it, I'm just going to pull those 2 files up. All right, so I have the no maintain, and I have the other one here. All right, so here's the one where I ran it as I just last showed it, where the maintain resolve layer color line type on is on, and it was exported. We look at it in 3D. We see it's pretty much a flat line work drawing. You'll notice some of the objects, these are the multi-view blocks. Some of them had some issue in terms of layer color line type stuff. When you select it, of course, these are blocks. Some of these you're going to see 2 blocks because there's a masking block underneath it. And when we select a window, for example, or even a door, notice how it behaves in terms of the selecting process. Oops. When you select a wall, notice what it's doing here. So that hatch came through very clean. When I select this outer edge of the wall, it's a line. What we do is we'll take a look over here under the properties. We'll see that it became a yellow object. I'm not really fond of it assigning color to my objects. It should really be by layer. If I go over here and I set it to by layer, it still stays yellow because the layers came through exactly as they were in the original file. So that means I could theoretically take the whole converted drawing. I could take all the colors and assign them to by layer, which they most likely should be, and I shouldn't see much of any change. There were some things that shifted because when the window, for example, was converted into something, chose the primary, the dominant layer of the object, which was A glazing, and just put everything on A glazing. So when I did the color to by layer, that's the kind of thing. So this didn't go to the right layer, which should be right here. I think there's a sill. There should be a sill layer in here. Let's see, glazing. It may not even have come through. Yeah, it didn't even come through. Interesting. So those are just some things to be aware of. You're not going to win on any of this stuff. Also notice this kind of thing here. Again, these are masks that get turned into hatch patterns. But overall, this is a very workable file for a recipient. You know, these are lines, and if they're not lines, they can explode them and get something that they can work with. Now let's take a look at the other file where I did not run the this option here, the maintain option, which was right here. I did not run this one. I had it unchecked like that when I ran this version out. And when I go down and select a window, notice it's not a line, okay? It is a whole block. It's actually pretty cool. But the wall is also not a line, it's a block. So everything becomes a block when you run it that way. But here's the thing that's interesting. It is a cleaner product. It looks more like the original file. All the colors are working. There's no particular oddities here. You'll see this all looks correct relative to the original. However, the key comes in, and you'll notice they say that right here. Explode. So this is kind of about, or reveals itself when you want to explode something. So if I explode this window, what happens? Okay, color changes right away. That is because when I select this, it jumps to layer 0. It loses layer fidelity, you may say. If I go into layers, you'll see the layers did come through. The colors are as per the original, but the object itself, when exploded, just jumps to layer 0. So if you were to explode the whole file, you're going to get this, and if you grab the whole file and you try to say something like, well, do all the colors by layer, you're going to get this. It's not a good solution for that kind of stuff. So I think the only place, and you'll have to decide for yourself, but the only place this might actually be of great benefit to somebody would be maybe somebody who just needs it as an underlay. They just want the whole thing, and they're going to screen it, maybe a structural engineer, an electrical engineer, mechanical engineer. And it might be a process of handing it to them in both versions to find out, if you're going to do a lot of projects with them, to see which they prefer to work with. But I'm still keeping this method. I haven't been convinced just because of what happens when you explode it. I've still been running this version, and I get upset that I see all of this stuff that I either clean up or not. I know most of the people on the other end pretty much will grab everything and they just set it to a certain, like the engineers will just set it to a certain color or line weight. They just screen it all. And the only issue here is these hatch patterns, and I'm going to show you how to take care of that right now. So, but that's it. These are the techniques. Bad news is there is no batch solution. There is no, some online I've seen comments where you just run, what did they say, do a publish to, this is not, you cannot publish your way to this result. You can't e-transmit your way there. You can't, I don't know, sometimes the comments don't seem to understand the reality of what is being asked. Okay, now those masks. If I go to the original file, let's see, do I have it here? Let's go back. Okay, so I'll get my original file. Okay, so this is the real deal. This is the BIM, and I don't want to screw up my BIM, so I never save when I do this kind of work. I'll just configure it and do the conversion and then not save. But so the masking stuff is something from our products. You won't see this in the Autodesk core or stock tools, but we've hidden masks inside of a lot of our objects so that you can get this kind of result here. You'll see the masking allows you to put furniture over the top of hatch patterns, like this bed. It'll make trees hide things. Even our cars can hide things. The beds, plants. Our numbers will hide things so you can read them better. Even this thing will hide stuff so you can read that better. And the way that we did that, where is that file now? I think this is it. Yeah, the way that we did that is using the AEC, I should write that, AEC polygon style. And if you're using any of our products that use these masks, you'll find when you're bringing them in, you're going to see mask, 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 mask. And you can simply locate them and then just uncheck on the other tab. You can uncheck the masking. And when you do your conversion, it will no longer produce the hatch patterns because the mask portion of the AEC polygon will be removed from the object itself. So that's how to fix the weird result that we saw. I don't even have it up anymore. But all that white stuff that you were seeing in that one file. Let's see, is there anything else? I think that pretty much covers it, and I am out.